Hi, I'm Shira Carpel.
And I'm Shayna Gaunt, and we're board-certified behavior analysts. At How to ABA, we provide practical resources, community, and support to ABA professionals. In each episode of our podcast, we will be having real conversations with real people, sharing real stories about ABA.
We'll share relevant strategies and actionable tips that will make us all better ABA practitioners. It's the ABA content you need that you're not going to learn in a textbook. Hi, everyone. Today we have Latocia Robins on the podcast, and she is the owner of Auspice ABA in Louisiana. So welcome, Latocia.
Thank you for having me.
Thanks for being here. So we are excited to hear more about what you do. Why don't you start by telling us a little bit about how you got into the field and what you're currently doing?
Currently, we service individuals from 2 years old to adulthood in ABA. We don't really have a cutoff. What started the vision for the company would be when I was in school, the lack thereof of being able to service individuals in the school system that may still need the support, but didn't meet, quote unquote, like autism diagnosis, but still needed support from an ABA provider. So we provide services to individuals who are not just diagnosed with autism, but ADHD and OD and CD. So any behavior, as well as adults. So I've been able to help individuals who may have drug addictions or other addictions with regards to ABA, helping them to overcome some deficits that they may need to work on.
Wow. The whole gamut.
I love it. I mean, so often, ABA therapists get pigeonholed into autism. Oh, you're ABA, you must be autism. And
Right.
It's so great to hear that people are using the application of ABA for other things.
Right.
Yeah, I just had this conversation yesterday with someone because we were talking about, servicing a student who clearly didn't have autism. And she actually said, but I thought ABA is just for autism. And I was like, no. So were you working in a school? Is that how you got into it?
Yes, I was actually a mental health provider, so providing services for individuals at a counseling agency. But I was in school for ABA. So I was like, there was no ABA company that actually serviced children in the school that I was working for at the time. And the kiddos were not diagnosed with autism. So I was like, I'm in school, I might as well use what I'm learning with the kiddos that I'm working with. So I started there, and then I moved from that counseling agency to working with the homeless community. And so I use ABA with all of my clients in the homeless community. So that's how I got started.
Very similar. I started as a preschool teacher. I didn't even know what ABA was. And the thing that really kind of pushed me into the field of ABA was these students who clearly didn't have a diagnosis, but weren't really fitting in, I couldn't reach them. I didn't have the skills that I felt like I needed in the school. And there were no answers. Even psychologists would come in and they couldn't really give me anything. So I definitely get that need to reach those kids that may be falling through the cracks. And ABA really does a good job of reaching those kids. But how do you find that it's different servicing, those types of kids versus servicing drug addiction and that population? Is it the same? Do you feel like ABA principles apply to both, or do you make changes?
I feel like they apply to both. For me, what I generally tell adults that I'm working with, this is more of the putting your words to action. That's what ABA does for you. So we're not just going to say that, we're going to stop smoking cigarettes and, I'm going to only smoke one a day, type deal. We're going to put a plan together. If you are smoking 10 cigarettes daily, let's try to decrease that to 9 and then to 8. And, on a day-by-day basis, not just saying that we're going to do it. So we're going to actually put a plan in action. So for me, with adults, of course, we're already set in our ways. So it's harder to decrease some of the things that we need to work on versus when you catch those kids early on, you know, we're just learning how to do this. So it's already, you know, pretty much second nature to fit into your environment versus if you've been doing it for 16, 17, 18 years, it's going to take just that amount of time to try to decrease something you've been doing forever, you know? So, but it's still the same principle. The same principle applies.
And do you see a lot of behavior change with those?
It takes a longer amount of time and the willingness to understand that you're going to fall down a couple of times. It's harder for us, I want to say, as adults to be consistent with the change, if that makes sense. So the reward is different. You know, as kids, we're giving them a reward chart. You know, I'm able to do this. It's the same like if you were to go on a diet. You know, you want to reward yourself with the junk food you've been having. You got to find a different way to reward yourself as an adult. You know, I can't go back to eating the same things I was eating before. You know, if my doctor diagnosed me with insulin resistance, you know, carbs is something I'm going to have to cut out. But if carbs were my main reinforcer, it makes it harder. So it's just hard when it's an adult. We have to find other things to reward ourselves with. So it's, again, same principle, just, you know, different person.
Absolutely. As an adult, they're not going to work for a sticker system. Oh, great. You know, you stopped smoking. Here's a sticker. And you're like, what?
Right.
Give me a break.
Right.
You mentioned like changing criteria and designs. Do you use ACT at all? ACT?
No, I don't.
So it's acceptance and commitment therapy. You know, it's newer to the field of ABA, but it talks about values and how really it's starting a session with that. So talking to somebody about their values and, hey, what do you want most? And, you know, obviously they want to stop smoking or they want to stop drug addiction. I want to stop, you know, eating carbs if that's what I need to do. So that's my value. And then, okay, well, describe what kinds of things take you away from your value. You know, and then they can talk about that. Well, you know, I see my buddy on the street or I get into a low point and I, you know, feel like I need this. Okay, but on your best day, you know, what kinds of things would you like to do, et cetera? And then talking to them about that. And that's a really great way to start goal setting. And then they can come up with a goal. So, hey, you know, my goal is this, and I'm just going to do this one little thing, like maybe smoking one less cigarette a day, you know, for this, so that the motivation then can come from internal versus external, right? So I've set this goal. It's not just because my doctor said I need to do this. Right. I really need to do this, and here's what it is. Anyway, something to look up. It's pretty cool too.
It sounds amazing. It sounds good for parent training, really.
Yeah. And you know what? There's some articles to suggest that doing ACT with parents right before you start parent training is way more effective than not doing that. Because parents, I mean, they care, absolutely, but there's so many things going on in their life, right?
Right. And it takes you back to the barriers as an adult. Like, I've been parenting this way for so long. And now you have this person coming in saying, hey, let's not do that when they're asking for a cup. You know, let's try making them turn on their voice, you know. So just helping parents see kind of like, you know, what my barrier is that's, you know, hindering the success from this working, pretty much. That sounds good. I do need to look into that one.
Those darn adults say, why are we all stuck in our ways? Can't we just be malleable like kids? Come on. I'd love to be able to work for stickers again.
Oh,
wow. So what's your reinforcement? Like, why do you know, it sounds like you're doing a lot of different things. Like, what do you like the best? What is, like, you know, kind of your passion within the field?
Honestly, it's really a day-by-day thing. One moment, my driving force is the fact that, oh, wow, this behavior has decreased, or, oh, my goodness, when we started out, you were tantruming for 4 hours. Now you're down to 30 seconds. Like, this is amazing. It's a day-by-day thing. A parent that wasn't able to, you know, toilet train, and we're potty trained every day. Like, that's the driving force, the success of it all. Seeing us move from, you know, one milestone to the next. You know, we haven't gotten it down to 0, but boy, we're not where we were when we started.
It's amazing.
Small change is worth celebrating for sure. When you do what we do. Every small change is an accomplishment.
I caught myself the other day. So I work at an ABA clinic, and I caught myself the other day going, wow, like that kid is talking so much, but like, gosh, like, why won't you just be quiet? Like, we're trying to get something done. I'm like, holy moly, 6 months ago, we were praying that you were going to talk. This is incredible.
Right. We had, we're scaring the daylights out of a 3-year-old who's sitting on the potty, and they finally defecate. And we're like, oh, he's sitting there freaking out. He was like, wait, what's this?
Yes.
Oh no.
Yeah, daylight out of that.
Like, was I not supposed to do this? No, buddy, you did amazing. It's a good bad thing.
Yeah, small success. So I see on your website, part of what you do, which seems like part of your passion, is that ABA is not just for autism.
Right.
What would you say to someone who's coming in with that kind of, preconceived notion? Maybe their child doesn't have a diagnosis, and you're trying to explain to them why their child should get ABA if they don't have autism. What would you say to someone?
I usually explain to parents what it is that we do. So let's list out the things that you want to see your child do, or in the event that anything happens to you, what's the deficit you don't want to leave your child behind on, if they have to live independently on their own. So is your child not able to stay in the classroom setting? Is he being put out of school? Like, what are those deficits? And let's see how we can work on it. And ABA is setting up a goal to meet those in not big chunks. Like, if your kiddo is not able to sit in the classroom for 30 minutes, I'm not going to say let's increase an hour. Let's start at 30 minutes. So getting them to see the bigger picture, not just what ABA has done for autism, but what ABA can do for you as an individual.
Yeah, I mean, I love focusing on the behaviors, because if a child doesn't have a diagnosis, then you could say, well, it doesn't really matter. Here's where they need to work on. Here are their strengths. Here are their weaknesses. But it goes the other way also. Sometimes when a child has a diagnosis and the focus becomes too much on, removing the diagnosis or catering to the diagnosis and making diagnosis specific intervention, which is really not what we do. So I do like for both, whether there's a diagnosis or not, really focusing on your individual child. Some things that you might see as, a behavior that's due to the diagnosis really might be their personality. It's not really, getting in the way of them, like you said, living on their own. So I think that perspective from the parent and from the providers is really important. So I really like that. And then the other thing we talk about is, our field is moving in a different direction. It sounds like you have a lot going on. Is there something that you think, after being in the field and seeing, different populations that you work with, that's something we need to improve on the field of ABA? How can we do better? Or what's something that we need to change?
I think for us in Louisiana, Baton Rouge specifically, is getting ABA, getting the name out there. The lack comes from parents don't know. They have no idea. They see therapists in the school and they're like, I need to get my kid one of those. Like, wait a minute, what? Like, they have no clue what ABA is. Like,
best kept secret.
Right. And I mean, even when I came into the field, I started out, my friend, she was like, you need to come into mental health. And I'm like, why would I do that? I'm trying to be an attorney. I want to be a lawyer. I don't want to work with kids.
Really?
That's my passion. And she was like, no, do you not understand? Like, this just comes natural to you. She was sending me her clients to come and talk to me. And so when I applied for my master's program, she was telling me about ABA. I had no idea what ABA was. I'm like, what? And even when I try to explain it now, they're like, what are you talking about? Okay, ABA, what is that? So it is a well-kept secret that no one knows about. But for our families that need that support, like, somehow we need to get the word out to them that there is someone out there that can help you, with what's going on. We can support your child in the school or at home, you know what I'm saying? or in the clinic. Like we work with, speech therapists and occupational therapists to get our clients where they need to be. And parents just feel like we're a single entity, to ourselves. So just being able to get our name out there so that individuals know there is support, for you. I think it's our deficit right now.
That's definitely like something that I'm passionate about, is like that more people need to know that it's not just for autism. And I think the thing that we could do better at is working with other professionals. So often you see speech therapy or OT, and they operate, they might have, joint therapies offering, and then ABA is kind of like its own thing. Like this is where the other kids go. So I think just doing more within schools, within other therapies, and having it be more mainstream. The same way you don't need a diagnosis to go to speech therapy, or it's not a secret. Everybody knows it exists, right? So I think that would be really nice for the field too.
Right.
Also just compassionate care, right? I mean, ABA, to those people who do know ABA, I always say there's, old ABA and there's new ABA, right? The old ABA is very much like the low VAS, like sit down and you're going to do this and we're going to be harsh about it, etc. And the new ABA is way more compassionate, and it really is about goal setting and about how do we help you achieve your goals. It's not about curing. It's not about fixing. It's about how do we, advance all of us as, individuals, or as, toilet training, like you said, or, helping with, them setting goals, helping them with a personal desire. And I think that's where ABA also needs to market itself, is saying, hey, you know what, let's focus in on what we do now, that current ABA, that quote unquote good ABA.
Right. I think them understanding that I get a lot of it just happens. It just happens out of the blue. And like, there's always a why, to why it's happening. We have the 4 functions of it. Let's sit back, let's assess and see like exactly why. Because they're always like, it just happened out of the blue. Even when I talk to other mental health providers and they're like, my client just does this out of the blue for just no reason. We're like, no, there's a reason. Yeah, whether it's external or internal, something is going on there. And helping those other providers to know, no, these are actual reasons, like they're communicating that something is going on. No kid is just in class not doing work for no reason. What we find majority of the time is our kiddos have no idea what the teacher just said. They have delayed processing, and you're moving faster than they're processing what you just said. And they're like, oh, he's just not paying attention. He's paying attention. He just can't stay on at the level that you're at. So we have to write it down on a sheet of paper and give those step-by-step instructions. Okay, she said, do this. Okay, this comes next, because they can't process that fast. But helping them to understand that there's reasons behind some of these behaviors. It's just not out of the blue. That becomes a deficit to like not knowing that there's a function to this behavior.
I know no behavior is not there. Yeah, I always make the analogy of being dropped in another country, right? Another country that doesn't speak English. We don't know their cultures, and we don't know anything about them, right? So if I were dropped in the middle of Russia, I don't know Russian, I don't know their culture. I would probably engage in negative behavior as well, right? I would probably, by the end of a lecture, if I'm sitting through it, trying to understand it, I'd probably be banging my head against the wall too, or sliding under the table, or probably just going into a coma position and crying, right?
Right. Exactly. Yeah. Some of it is terrifying, and it causes a lot of anxiety, for individuals, whether you have a diagnosis or not. I get anxiety, and for children, that's overwhelming. It's very overwhelming.
Yeah. I like to have the perspective of, and I say this all the time, like, he's not giving you a hard time, he's having a hard time. Because so often we see as like the teachers and the professionals, like we see it as a misbehavior. And like I even heard the word this week a couple times, like they're manipulative, like they're trying to act out, and trying to shift that perspective to, these are the skills they have. They're the ones struggling, and we're the ones trying to help them, right? They're not out to get us. It's not personal, but looking at it with the perspective of compassion and, how can we help make this easier for you? Because clearly there's a struggle.
Right. Exactly.
So we have a lot of, professionals in our community, people in our audience who may have, just gotten their exam or just passed and, are brand new in the field. What would you say to someone who's just starting out, new grad, new BCBA? What advice do you think they need?
Oh, wow. For all of the individuals, because I have a lot of new BCBAs and individuals wanting to go into the field. And like I told one today, like, strive to be better than your yesterday. Like, we all come to the table sometimes not knowing. Don't feel like you have to have the answers. This is a human being, Yes, we have the book. We got Cooper, Take the book, break it down. Each individual person is different. Everything is case by case. Don't stress out. Yes, you're going to take work home. You're going to sleep thinking about, hey, I don't know what to do. Take it day by day. Take a breath, and burnout is real. So check in with yourself to know that you're okay. Take those moments, take those breaks. Sometimes after I take a break is when the light bulb goes off and I come back with fresh eyes to see, oh, wow, why weren't we doing this in the first place type deal, because each individual person is different. And you will have those individual cases where you're like beating your head against the wall because you want to help that person so bad, but the answer doesn't come overnight, So don't beat yourself up. Take a moment to breathe and take time for yourself is what I would say. Don't try to be like the next BCBA. Try to be better than yourself yesterday, Yeah.
Yeah. That's some really important advice, about just small little bits, do better every day. You don't have to feel the pressure to be perfect or to know everything. Because if you feel that pressure, the burnout is gonna come. So really just go easy on yourself and a little bit every day. Same as our clients, right? We just want to see small successes.
Right. Exactly. Give yourself a bit.
Yeah. Someone told me a while ago, they said, you know what, Shana, you can't bat 100. 500. I don't know baseball. You can't bat 500 all the time. And it's so true, right? We put so much pressure on ourselves to be, not just the best we can be, but the best ever. And it's like, no, just be, I love that. Be better than yesterday.
Right. Exactly. I mean, we're all human. We all have behaviors that we're trying to work on. And I honestly feel like everyone that goes into ABA as a BCBA has that compassion to change and fix things. And if we can't fix everything, and sometimes you have to reach out for help. You are not the end all be all. We are not God. We cannot change everything, but reach out, have support from others, and they may have the answer that you've been looking for. That light bulb will go off through someone else, because it's a different set of eyes looking at what you've been looking at and trying to, beat your head against the wall about, always have support, always have those individuals and corners that you can call. All of the ladies that I studied for the exam for, we're all still in a group and we all pick each other's brains. I pick you guys' brains. I'm there. I'm like, hey, I don't have no clue what to do with this behavior right here. So pick everybody's brain, put everybody together at a round table to try to figure out how we can best help, our clients, our kiddos,
And we love that you pick our brain. I mean, that's why we're set up, right? I mean, Shira and I were so fortunate because we met each other years ago, and the two of us have each other as support. We both live in the same city, so we both are there for each other, and we work in different organizations now and are able to, ask questions to each other, like, what would you do in this situation? And it's awesome. And that's how to ABA came about, actually, was like, well, why are we not sharing this information? Why are we just so insular? Like, we need to get that word out there, and we need to be able to share things. So we love it. Keep asking.
I will.
Yeah. It's definitely a common thing in the field that we're all passionate, right? We come into the field because we want to make change. But we also know we don't have all the answers. And I think part of that challenge is maybe we're all, too perfectionist. We don't want to ask for help, but getting used to asking for help and getting used to finding the resources that you need and not feeling like I need to make all this change right away, because it can be very overwhelming.
Right.
Yeah, I love that.
And if you're overwhelmed, you can't help your client. Like,
Exactly.
There's no way.
That's it. Absolutely.
Okay. Well, thank you, Latocia. This was really nice to get to know you and to get to see, a little bit of face-to-face from just the names that we're used to seeing. So it was really nice to hear more about what you do. And thanks for sharing.
Thank you for having me.
Thanks for joining today's conversation. Wherever you get your podcast, please go and subscribe, rate, and review so others can find out about us too.
For more from How to ABA, including free resources and ABA materials, visit our blog at howtoaba.com. And make sure that you're following us on social media for more practical tips and updates.